What's something that's not going well? First thing, your own or in the world or a friend, someone you love. Hold it. It's right here. Turn it into a prayer. I had a bad morning. I don't fully know why. There was some ugh. I pray that the negative energy that was present in my home this morning be transmuted with grace. May I respond to such bad feelings more maturely with love. And may I learn what I need to about what's beneath what I can see. Breathe. Pull your stomach in as you exhale. And you're pumping that prayer up and out. You're giving it. Give. It's a gift. You've just held negative energy. When you take negative energy in any way, in any form, and you hold it, that in itself is a gift. Now, if it breaks free and takes over, that's unfortunate. Even when that happens, you turn the whole event into a prayer again by holding it again and praying again, more firmly, more clearly, or simply with the trust that by repeatedly praying to transform negative energy in any form, it gets stronger each time. And when you put it in your solar plexus and you remember that, you remember your will to transform this negative challenge. Your system takes the best, keeps it, and lets go of what doesn't work. And even if you have to try again and again and again, by building the ongoing intention to transform a negative challenge that you may engage repeatedly, you nurture the hope and faith in a new way. Law of attraction is also the law of repulsion, is also the law of attracting negative things into your life. I believe it's important to address all these things together. Some of the worst events that have ever happened to me happened when I allowed negative interactions to spiral out of control, when I was not able to contain them. I wasn't able to hold them and pray to transform them. And so the root energy of negativity, it snowballed, it spiraled, it grew upon itself. It took over. It's like a feedback loop. You know what a feedback loop is? It's where you got a speaker and a mic. I talk into the mic, the voice comes out the speaker, the voice coming out of the speaker goes back into the mic, it goes. That's what a negative law of attraction effect is like. When you allow the dominant theme in your experience to be a powerful negativity, then you start to feel it. Because when you're thinking negativity, when you're feeling negativity emotionally, it starts to exist more energetically. Once something gets to a certain level of loudness energetically, you will feel it. Now, you might not register it yet because a lot of people aren't attuned to registering resonance. And It's still there. It's still influencing you. So it's going to start influencing you on multiple levels. Once you start to feel it, that's like the speaker emitting the energy that then goes back into the mic. So it just becomes unavoidable. You no longer have the strength to contain it. So let's look at this with the will, to be honest. I think it can be tempting to do a half-assed version of what I began this class describing. A half-assed version is papering over things with positivity. When you paper things over with positivity, by the way, thank you for the like, much appreciated. When you paper things over with positivity, that is sort of like kind of holding it down. But what that does is that lacks the will to be fully present with the negativity. Now, when you don't want to be fully present with negativity, that has a lot to do with subconsciously understanding that when we get too close to negativity, when you get too close to negativity, it can create this feedback loop. So what is necessary is cultivating. It is necessary to cultivate the will to be present with negativity in a way that turns it down. And then you have to do something. You have to do something with that energy. My trust is that this dynamic of creating a prayer around anything that's not going well, and then creating space with humility to say, show me what I can do that's more effective. Show me what I can do that is going to create positivity in relation to the forces I'm actually facing. Because again, when you just try to make negative things disappear by being happy, it's like trying to close a wound with dirt inside. When you obsess on cleaning negativity, sometimes you overdo it and you amplify things that don't need your attention. So there's a real skill here in being present with negative feelings and yet not letting them take over. And that is the challenge of real prayer. And real prayer is simple. It says, what's not going well? Turn it into a prayer. Now, you want to hear this. You might not like to hear this immediately if you're honest with yourself, but you want to hear this. You can spiral again and again and again with a negative thought form when all that's lacking is a positive prayerful intention. So, for instance, one of the traps I get caught in is trying to outthink it. There's a certain kind of spiraling where the mind is just like on negativity. And I'm trying to hold that negativity down. I'm trying not to let it get out of its container, but it's like a thin shell. Like I'm suffering because that negativity is there. And that is almost always a sign that a prayer needs to be made. That mental energy is not the remedy in this particular case. And you can learn to make this connection. The mind trying to rationalize, trying to blame, that's another characteristic of such a mind state. That mind, you can learn to identify, I'm stuck in this dysfunctional mind. It's a dysfunctional mind when mind isn't necessary, when faith is necessary. And the faith is to say, all you want is to draw a circle around whatever negative situation is here and say, make some kind of relevant prayer. It might be, help me, help me, help me. That's a good prayer. That's a really good prayer. Cultivating this connection is a maturity that I want more of. Let's put it that way. So the idea is to interrupt. Now, this is a real theme. I've started sharing this the past couple of weeks. You want to use chakra work to interrupt whatever negative patterns are in your life. Now, that functions in two ways. One, typically, if you've got a negative pattern, it's usually stuck in your body or stuck in your mind. And when I say mind, I'm going to keep repeating this. It's a broad understanding of mind, which is mental and emotional woven together. So when you get stuck in negative emotions or mind state, or when you literally have a debilitating physical condition, typically what's absent is spirit. And the chakras are the bridge between the mind, the body, and the spirit. They're this little, you go to the chakra and it gives you this access to the mental theme, the spiritual resonance, or a focus on the physical activity of that area of your body. When you have that transitional energy, where it's sort of like going into what's a good analogy? I haven't even developed an analogy for this yet. You're going into a space and you can pump out mental or emotional, you can pump out spiritual, you can pump out physical. And the goal is to learn to be present with which of these forces are imbalanced. In what way are you overthinking something that needs more faith? This is one of the biggest absences. Now, I have to tell you, you can overdo faith. You can overdo spiritual. You can overdo spirituality and a focus on sort of dealing with your life by hiding in the spiritual interpretation of things. It's called spiritual bypassing. I've got an old live feed about it. This is not my concern in this moment. In this moment, I want to encourage you, invite you to take another look. We're going to do this again. We did this at the beginning. Now we're going to do it again. We're going to take another look inside you. What is a negative challenge in your life? Scan yourself. We're going to do this together. And this time I want you to think about you. Now, be humble. Don't be too specific. When I say be humble, what I mean is don't presume you fully understand it, because if you did, you probably would have fixed it already. Now, we're gonna draw a circle around it, and you're gonna put it in your hands, okay? Right in front of you, you're holding energy that represents this negative challenge. Now, I want you to turn it into a prayer. If you don't know how to be specific, be general. Help me. If you can be a little bit specific, it's beautiful. Don't be too specific. Because what we're cultivating is a surrender into allowing, inviting love, spiritual love, God's blessing, the Holy Spirit, an angel, your spiritual higher self. You're inviting, you're creating space for this presence to come in and help. Now breathe with this into the solar plexus. And I want you to be clear as you get ready. You've got a negative situation in your life. You hold it in front of you and you say, please, help me to resolve this in a way that's healthy and good for me and my family. Help me to not make the same mistakes that I have been making. And help me to be open to the kind of person I can become without this challenge. Now, hey, welcome, Maha. It creates a groove. Exactly. Hey, welcome, Haldi. Mayank. Love it. Hi. Bless you guys. Thanks for being here. I had a wonderful breakthrough this week. And this is about prayer, and this is about law of attraction. This is about creating what you want. I was explaining something to a friend in a way that it became much clearer. And I'm really excited to share this with you. This is sort of fundamental law of attraction stuff shared in a way that I want to invite you into, because I do believe that I'm imparting this in a unique way that will really help you live a better life. Now, first of all, my credentials. Stephanie, thank you for being here. I'm 46. When I was 25, I started this spiritual path. And within 2 or 3 years, I started to get really good at it. I started to manifest things quite well. When I thought of something, I was very present in a way that I recognized that there was a magnetism to it. And I started to get into the feeling of it. And I wasn't reading or listening to worldly teachers who were telling me about this stuff, for human teachers or anybody. I wasn't in some school that taught me or even named law of attraction, but I was getting it internally. And it was cool. I was excited. I was aware that there was magic to this that I could share. And at a certain point, at first, I manifested opportunities, people that I wanted to meet, beautiful, beautiful friends. And I got myself into a new social scene that was really empowering and exciting. And in this scene, I was well received, and I was, considered quite beautiful as a person. And they invited me to go to Burning Man. I didn't even like I was in over my head a little. Like I was sharing my truth. I was being present as the person I wanted to be, but all the same, I thought, I was going to be sort of like exposed as a fraud. Like I wasn't really as cool as these people. And so I went along with it, but I was nervous. And they said they had some degree of support for all that, and they encouraged me and coaxed me, and they had me bartend with a really beautiful woman. And so I was like the beautiful man. She was the beautiful woman. And it was like, okay, I was just trying to live into this persona, right? And it was an underground party. It was like extreme. There were not legal drinks, absinthe and a THC thing and an opiate. And I was there in this wild party doing it. And we raised all this money. We raised enough money for the hotel room and the plane flight. And everybody was happy. Everyone was really excited. I was one of the 6 people who were doing this, and it was really thrilling. And I went home and I felt like a fraud. I was like, I overplayed my hand. I can't handle these. And I didn't know how to articulate that. So I said, I can't do it. I don't have enough money for everything else. And they were really like, what's wrong with you? Like, come on, you can come up with enough. There's not that much more to come up with. But I was scared, and I didn't know how to say it. So I stared at myself honestly, and I looked at this, and I held the fear, and I said, look, I really am afraid about money. So let's put this here. I pray for $2,000. I need $2,000 more to feel comfortable with this. So I wrote it down on a little piece of paper, and I put it under a candle. And I lit the candle. I said, I'm going to keep this candle lit. Several day candles. Before that candle went out, someone knocked on my door and said, I was looking through your window and I noticed the colors in your house. And my friends and I painted this house, wild colors. Every wall was a different color. The ceiling was a sun. It was beautiful. And they said, look, I've noticed how beautiful it looks inside. We would like to hire your house to pay you to film a commercial in your house. We'll offer you $1,500. It will take a day. And I stared at this guy and I said no, $2,000, because I was so clear that I was attracting a $2,000 opportunity, not a $1,500 opportunity. And he said yes. They paid us $2,000 for one day. They brought 60 people in, had lights shining through they had 2-story lights outside the house to get the lighting right. They had a food truck that we were allowed to eat from, and all we had to do was not get in the way for one day. $2,000. And I went to Burning Man for the first time. That was the beginning of my ability to manifest. So in my humble experience, that would be the introduction to many a YouTube video in which somebody said, I'm going to teach you how to do this. I am not. By the way, thank you for the like. I really appreciate it. I am not going to teach you how to do that without teaching you the next step. It's 20 years later. I own a house without debt. It's owned completely. There's no mortgage. I'm married to the woman of my, we are destined for each other. And incidentally, we have another baby on the way. I'm announcing to you that my wife is deep into a pregnancy and we're past the first trimester, so we're feeling trust. And I have a son, Benji, and we're gonna have another baby. This is the life I want. I learned to use my skills well. And the how really matters. By the way, thank you so much for the congratulations, because it's the biggest thing in the world. And please, if you would, pray for a healthy pregnancy here with me, because we have had several miscarriages. Much earlier, I don't know if you know about pregnancy, but miscarriages are often early, and we're past that time. If you want to get good at manifesting what you want, you have to get good at wanting. You have to know what to want. That's where the real crucial link is. A lot of people are out there trying to feel, the crucial link is that if you want to manifest things, you have to feel them. So the gimmick trick, so to speak, that's taught over and over again, 10 minutes and I'll teach you how to manifest whatever you want. The gimmick is get yourself into the spirit of having already received it. But what you really have to connect first is, what do you want? See, this doesn't work for anything. And to the extent that there are broad parameters to what you can manifest, you want to be careful. Because if you try too hard to manifest what you want, you might miss the signals that are there communicating to you that your wants might be out of tune with your true needs. See, there's a whole conversation here. Now, I know this is a shocker, but I just want to sort of introduce you to your body. Believe me, this is relevant. Your body is the Earth's. This is not you. This is a gift. This is a loan. This is a loan of dirt and water, rock, minerals. You're going to give it back. Gaia is with you every day in your body. She's right here. She's always talking to you. Always. She's always communicating with you. And if you're going to be some jackass just going out into the world trying to get, do you really think she can afford to have 7 billion people doing that? No, she can't. We've already got too many people taking too much. Too much consumption, too much consumption to hide from pain. No. What we need is to be really present with this conversation so that we can learn to see the most amazing opportunities for each of us. Because unbeknownst to you, if you're too quick to decide what you want, you might miss what's available. Now, I have to tell you, yesterday was a terrible day. I had a terrible day yesterday. I spent so much time trying to edit this video for you all, and I just couldn't get the message. I have been trying to make this video for years, and the computer crashed, like the program crashed a dozen times. Now, I have to tell you, under most circumstances, I would have let that go. I would have said, okay, this is not working. I should do something else. But I'm so focused on getting this done that I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And it kept crashing and it kept crashing. I tried it again this morning before the class and it crashed. This is my edge. I am failing to hear something about this video. Now, I'll tell you the message, and now it's recorded. I have this very clear sense of how I want to present it, with all these like titles swooping in and leaving that name each of the poses. And it's when I'm trying to make those titles that it's crashing. I've got the whole thing recorded. It's laid out in its sequence. But for some reason, whenever I try to put the titles in there that give you names for the poses, it crashes. Okay. So the idea I had floating through my head is just to publish it without all the titles. But I have had my want in aligning these titles with written material that I will post below it and I couldn't let it go. I couldn't trust the message. This is a very simple and hopefully funny analogy for how this needs to work in everyone's life. You have what you want, but what you want might not be the best. You have to trust that the earth is here, okay? The earth is not somewhere else. The earth is not, you might have to trust that the earth is down and get over some like bullshit up down polarization hell stuff. But the earth is also right here. She's right here. Okay? She's talking to you. She is giving you feedback on your dreams. Every single nuance of them. You're not too quiet. She might be encouraging you to be louder to make it more real, but she's not encouraging you to be louder because she doesn't hear you. She hears you before you hear you. She knows some of the best opportunities for you before you do. You are the one that needs to be invited into this trust that praying too specifically for what you want is not a good idea. After that Burning Man experience, I started, praying more and more. And unfortunately enough, that was often for girlfriends. And to my credit, I usually thought that I was like praying for the woman I wanted to stay with. But nonetheless, I kept getting my list. Have you done this? Prayed for a list in a partner? Oh, be careful. Be careful of the list. I kept getting my list. Okay. Check, check, check. Fire dancer who lives in her tree. Check, check, check. I didn't know what the hell I was asking for. I was asking too specifically for things that weren't actually what I needed. And it's this unity of want and need that is so challenging for people and is too absent from conversations about the law of attraction. In order to know how to pray well, you have to pray with the space to be edited. So with that being said, I want to take a pause because I want you to just be present with this, all right? I'm going to put you in a groove. You need to pray with space that has faith. It's this balance between a clear, willful prayer and yet a prayer that you're willing to allow to change. Oh, thank you all. I saw these texts appear. Congratulations. Thank you for your congratulations. Hey, I'm thrilled to share this. I'm so excited. So in about 5 months, I don't know what my schedule is going to be like, but until then, we're going to continue as we are. Oh, hey, Haldy. That's beautiful, Hadi. Yes, I will definitely go into that quite soon. Oh, Fatima, welcome. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to go back into this, and you might be familiar. The law of attraction talks about how we take the seed of an idea and turn it into something more real by feeling it. Now, all too often, a traditional outlook on life says, I want to get this, therefore I have to plan how to get this, and I'm going to build to get there. And it's even considered maybe modest to restrain yourself and be patient. And yet, really, one of the best ways to get something is to embody it as if you've already gotten it. Now, it isn't a trick, but it's often used as a trick. The reason I stress that is because we're navigating this needle. We're threading a needle where I want to invite you to embody the success of your dream as if you already have it. And then I want you to let go of the process. Let's say you're a teacher. You're a teacher and you're a good teacher. So to the rest of us, I'm going to trust that you're very humble about this. But the rest of us say, this is a really good teacher. We want this person teaching other teachers how to be a good teacher. So, well, what does that look like? Well, In many cases, to do that as your full-time profession, you need to be a professor. Well, in order to be a professor, you have to be a doctorate. Boom, a lot of people are going to just let go. They'll abandon the dream. Now, this is an extreme analogy, but I want you to imagine something you want. And I want you to think honestly about whether you are careful about how you try to create it. And when I say careful, this might shock you. Being careful about creating something in this mystical way, in this way of prayer, says you are not allowed to damage your prayer. Your prayer is the sacred essence. Your prayer is the seed of what you are creating. You are not allowed to smush it with your doubt. What often happens is that people have a prayer and they feel it. You know this, you feel it. You feel the spark of hope. And then you talk yourself out of it. Your mind says, in order to do this, I have to do this, and I have to do this, but I can't do this. It's blocked. There's no way. It's too much work. This doesn't work. I always, something. And when you do that, when you edit the steps to get there, you miss this magic. The magic says you got to feel it. You got to feel it as if it's going to work. And then, thank you so much for the likes. And then you got to let go of any attachment you might have to the way you're going to get there. Now, this is the real intense challenge. The feeling is spirit. This is transcending the emotion, okay? The feeling is a spiritual resonance. If it exists, it exists. I'm going to do this like 5 times with you right now, all right? If it exists, it exists. If you can imagine something absolutely beautiful, it exists. It's real. The second you can imagine, it's real. Now, you need to let go of the form. Here's how this works. I am going to give you $1 billion. With that $1 billion, you can do whatever you want. I want you to imagine, really do this now. I'm going to give you $1 billion. You can do whatever you want. If your idea of a good person is that you're going to give every penny of that away, you can give every penny of that away. Be smart about it. Who are you going to give it to? If your idea of as a good person is that you're going to live a good life and invest that money and then give away a portion of the profits, that's fine too. You're allowed to do whatever you want. I want you to feel the empowerment that you have $1 billion and you can do whatever you want with it. Now be present, please. I invite you into this exercise. What are you going to do? Go with your first impressions. I'll tell you in a little bit what I'd do. Now, you can get yourself, it might take more work, you might have to work on this later, but you can get yourself into the sense, the experience of being empowered on this level. And when you do, it exists. If you can feel it, it exists. Now get rid of the form. You don't really need the money. You don't really have to be the person who's giving that money away. You don't really have to be the person that participates in the decisions from the point of view of having the cash. Maybe you can learn to identify with an organization that's already doing what you just imagined. If you can't find one, you need to trust that your participation will help something become that. Because if you can be in the feeling of that success, the feeling of that empowerment, the feeling of that flow moving in your life, then you can participate in something like that that already exists and become part of it. The sacred essence here is the resonance. When you pray and feel your prayer, it becomes real just because you feel it. And if you can get rid of your expectations, get rid of your musts, get rid of your framework, get rid of your scaffolding, that sacred essence is going to grow if you can follow it. You have to be able to follow it. And it might invite you, it might demand of you that you make changes in your life that are very challenging. This is why a path of non-attachment is so sacred. This is why Western capitalist world, at this point, Western doesn't matter anymore, but the global economy, people who are raised doing well, probably most people on the internet in many forms, they're present in a way that needs this ability to think of what it would be like to let go of everything. But it doesn't mean you have to let go of everything and be an ascetic. It means you have to be able to. And if you're able to, you can trust that sacred essence and you can follow it. Now, I'm speaking to you as someone who, when I followed this, I was pulled into a real high level of asceticism. I really lived light for a long time, and I followed this sacred flame, and it taught me all sorts of stuff. I got myself on the spirit of a calling, and it absolutely didn't have to be painful. I didn't have to give up everything in order to make it real. I had to give up everything in order to stay with it as a priority. So I invite you into a sense that by giving your most powerful prayer to the world and being willing to follow it, you go into this territory where you can't know what will happen, but it is absolutely okay to want. You can want to be comfortable. You can want to still go to restaurants. You can want to have good food. You can want to own a home. You just have to be clear on what your priorities are. And at the very least, recognize what causes you to snuff out your greatest prayers. Recognize where you check out. You can trace it. You can trace it. And when you trace it, you'll recognize the spirit snuffing out from your consciousness. You'll recognize it leaving because you've made this other choice. And that might be fine. Maybe you're someone who needs to let go of a particular dream, but be honest with yourself about why you let go of your dreams. Oh, bless you. Yes. Now, cycle this back into you. Be specific. What's the biggest dream that you know you've had? It doesn't matter. Don't judge it. It's like maybe when you were young, you wanted to be a surgeon. But what's the dream that in this whole life of yours that has called you the clearest? Like you were ready to go for only that at a time in your life when you could afford to do that. And that might be now. Just find it. The goal here is to come to terms with the way you make choices, which is really the way you pray. You don't want to retain a prayer that contradicts the way you actually make choices. Or you need to change your choices to retune to your prayers, because the divergence of these energies is terrible for you. You need to get your choices and your prayers into alignment. You need to get your wants and your needs into alignment. And chakra work is one of the best ways how. So Haldi raised this, and he's running ahead, and I love it. Here's how this goes. The law of attraction works with your heart. It works getting your mind and your heart together. Okay. When you get your thoughts, your conscious concepts about what you want into harmony with your feeling, you create a magnetic field that's much stronger than any other magnetic field you create. Your body is surrounded by electromagnetic energy. This electromagnetic energy mediates your spiritual life and your mental life into reality. When you get your mental in the brain, your neurological concepts, pathways, in tune with what you feel, something actually happens. The alignment between the brain and the heart is mediated by the third eye and the heart chakra. When you get your third eye to tune in with your heart chakra clearly, you turn on this magnetic force field, and you do it with this extraordinary will to embody what you're dreaming. So the simplest way to put it quickly is that you are going to pretend something before it is true. You are going to pretend that you have already succeeded. You already have $1 billion. When you pretend, you're starting to create the opportunity to feel something, and you're getting these forces in alignment. Once you create that flow exists. You let go of the concepts. They were just a gimmick. They were scaffolding, and you let it happen. But before, this is the unique stuff, all right? All that's straightforward, good, well-taught, Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks, law of attraction. Look them up. They're awesome. That is the pre-stuff. The unique stuff you could do with your chakras is identify what you want more clearly. We're going to use the solar plexus. We're going to take an intention, and you're going to start with want. You are going to clearly articulate what you want. Clearly articulate it. And then you're going to will it into existence. You're going to imagine going from the solar plexus to the diamond eye. When you bring energy from the solar plexus to the diamond eye, you're bringing it into dream time, and you're letting it go. You're giving it as a gift to Gaia. And the best way I know to do this is say, hey, what do you think? Get over any too dramatic mysticism and say, this is what I want. And you think it here, you squeeze your stomach, you go up here, you do exercises for the diamond eye, and you imagine letting it go. And then you imagine receiving a response. Now, when you imagine receiving a response, you need to really surrender how that response will come. You just say, I want to hear this response. I want to receive this response in a way that I can understand. I've even, one author who influenced me prayed for 3 signs that helped them trust the response. You can do that. What you're asking for is communication that's going to teach you how to recognize Gaia's voice in this. And it's a co-creation model. The secret to manifestation is co-creation. The secret to manifestation is co-creation. 5 years ago, I did a 2-week fast. I wrote down my prayers. I wanted to own a house in 5 years. I owned a house in 3 years completely. No debt. When you get in tune with what the world is showing you is possible, that's when the greatest possibilities are available. If I tell you to go out and pray to own a house with no debt in 5 years, that might not work, because maybe you have a calling to live on a boat and travel around the world and do a certain kind of service. And maybe that is what's best for you. I didn't want a house. I'd gone 10 years homeless. But this is what the world showed me was available. So you can see how this missing piece is in the approach. If you're trying to hammer into reality a dream that isn't available to you, it's going to be hard to manifest it. It's the humility to back up. Turn your mental idea into a prayer, say, this is what I think. What do you think? And then be open to the response. This is where the sacred transformation occurs. Thank you, Lenny. All right. There's a lot. That's a lot. I cannot invite you enough to get into this space. It's a deep humility. It's a wild. It's a wild freedom. It's a wild freedom. If you are praying to learn how to fly, you might not recognize that many birds pray to learn how to run. I want you to remember this. If you are praying to learn how to fly, you might fail to recognize that many birds look down on those wolves and, they see pure freedom. They see weight. They see the power of your weight touching the earth. They love to touch the earth, but they can't even walk well. They walk so slowly and awkwardly in most cases, in many cases. They're yearning to run. Whatever you are, whatever limitations you're in, you want to work with those limitations. If you lose a leg, what can you do? There's the most amazing people that I've ever heard of, or that they know this. They work with this. They take the limitations that they can't change, and they learn to pray within those limitations. And that's what I'm inviting you to do. And sometimes a more normal life, it's more challenging to do that because it's harder to see what's unique about your limitations. When I came to the end of a road that spent, for those of you who arrived a little later, I learned to be quite remarkable at manifesting things when I was about 26, 27. I'm 46 now. 8 years ago, after manifesting a whole long series of things that I had asked for, I was a wreck. I'd fried myself because I kept manifesting extreme situations that I didn't understand the consequences for them. So I was getting what I wanted, but the world was really giving me a lot of baggage along the way. And I ended up in a cabin, which I manifested alone. And I was I was shut down. I was just sitting there a lot. And I finally said, okay, I clearly don't know what I need. Please show me. Please show me. This is one of the best prayers. And I have to tell you, it's not the end. You don't get to check out. I just watched a spirituality video in which the person was saying, spirituality is the road to surrender. Sometimes it's going to wake you up again and get you to participate again. It's not these pithy answers, it's not the pithy answers are the sign of a polarity. No attachments. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure commitments are so bad? No, you can't say no attachments is always the way. It's the way when you're too attached. So when you're too unattached, commitments is the answer. You need to make more commitments and create more presence. We're getting into territory that's about the fundamental transformation of our world. And I am so excited to introduce you to this. I'm going to take 10 more minutes to be a chatterbox, and then I'm going to invite questions. Something very awesome is happening right now. I was so sad this morning. I got up at 2. I haven't been to sleep. I meditated and did yoga for a while. And then I looked at the news. And I saw that they're giving up. The squatters in our White House in the United States. They're giving up. And I cried. I made myself a cup of coffee at 4 a.m. and I looked out the window and I was so sad. It's been so bad. It's been an abusive energy in charge of my country. And it's an abusive energy that goes back to the roots of my country. It goes back to the roots of humanity as we've known it. Dominance, pure dominance, the will to dominate, the will to make itself real, the will to come up with an idea and force it, inflict it into the world, inflict it upon others, inflict it on women. Rape. It's a raping mind that's been in charge. And it's been in charge in the auspices of being the right way. Take what you want, make it real. That's what a man is. Go a little further. Run 80 miles, even if your bones are broken in your foot. That's what toughness is. This is all the same disease. It's all the same fucking disease. And it's ending. It is ending. I'm telling you that from everything I know, which is a deep relationship with the spiritual guidance of this world. This is ending. It'll take a while. It'll take decades to be perfectly clear. But that was the apex of the end. Okay, that was the tipping point. You participate in embracing this change by being humble about what you pray for. Humility doesn't mean just surrendering and throwing it to the wind. Humility definitely does not mean demanding anything and insisting that that's what's real. It's this dynamic, this balance. Embody it, feel it, want it, surrender it. It's like, what if you're, and this is for men and for women, what if you're having sex? It's passionate, it's strong, and your partner needs it to stop. This is one of my earlier lessons, sexually. Two lesbian women taught me this, that in a healthy relationship, either partner can stop whenever the other partner needs them to, because sex brings up a lot. So something that starts beautifully might bring up trauma, and then that person needs you to be present for their trauma. And if you're not the kind of person, if you're not the kind of lover that can stop and shift gears and hold them with grace and let them cry, no, that's what the world needs. The world needs you to be that kind of lover in your life. Go for it. Feel it. Be passionate. But be able to change. Be able to turn. Be able. See. Watch what the world is. Watch what the world is showing you about your dreams, about your passion, about what you're asserting into reality, so that you can turn. And I am not as good at this as I want to be. If you've come in later, I will update you on the fact that yesterday I spent almost all day trying to make a video in which I was trying to add these titles to an extraordinary. This is the routine I use for chakra yoga more than any other, and I haven't posted it in years. I've been a little selfish, to be honest. It's like I almost haven't wanted to share it. It's so awesome. It's awesome. It's so effective. I use it almost every day in some form. It's the same foundation as the grounding flower, the 12 poses that I posted last week, and then poses build off of it. And I have this desire to make titles with it that fully describe it, and boom, the program crashed 12 times, and I didn't get the hint. How is that happening in your life? How, where is the world telling you no? Are you potentially being too influenced by expectations from a sick culture that tells you to push through that no? Now, I'm not asking you to give up. I'm asking you if you are missing signals from Gaia that tell you how to change. Because when you can change, you find the best dreams, the best life. that are available to you. Okay, so I'm going to move to these questions next. First, I'm going to do something that I'm going to make normal. I have to tell you, this is really profound for me in that there's a lot of stuff that I haven't shared at all, practically, that it's time for me to share. It's time for me to open. This chant really carried me. I went 10 years traveling with a backpack, sleeping all over the place. It was beautiful in so many ways. And I used this chant. I said, I'm not homeless. The world is my home. And it worked. I was almost always given a good place to be, good place, beautiful. Sleeping outside is absolutely awesome as long as you know you can get out of the rain. So, Gaiana, 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 Gaia. Gaiana, 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 Gaia. Gaiana, 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 Gaia. Gaiana, Gaiana. Gaiana, Gaia. I am more of this world than I am American. My great, 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 great grandfather was on the fucking Boston Tea Party, and I am more of this world than I am American. I love this country, and I am part of taking responsibility for the deepest sins. I love my relatives. May I be part of taking responsibility for the curses that they left behind, along with their gifts. We all must enter a time when our unity is more important to us than our differences, where our divisions, the things that seem to make us unique, remain a special part of who we are without becoming tangled in conflict, resentment, and fights over supremacy and who is better and who is most important and who is right. This world has been designed to fit together. We have been put into a way of life that has a place in the world as a whole. And awakening to this recognition is one of the first steps of waking up fully to who you really are, because you are not your family or your culture or your race or your gender or your choices. You are the spirit that was born into this life. And the choices that shape you most are the choices you already made before you were born. And you cannot embody them until you believe it. Believing in the truth of who you really are is the greatest step you can take to support healing and love in the world. Because as you tune into this truth, you will cease resisting this truth. And as you cease resisting this truth, you claim power that has been latent, wasted within you. I invite you to be present with your higher self, the spirit that is eternal in this world, the spirit that has lived many lifetimes on this earth, the spirit that has lived on other planets and dances between stars. You will not, you cannot remember all of it. Surrender to remember enough to be present in your truth so that you can awaken to the extraordinary joy and the gifts in this life that remind you that you chose to be here. Why did you choose to be here? What called you here that made this so attractive that you came here rather than going to Saturn or staying on the moon or dancing in space where there are no days and no nights? What called you to this? Feel it. Allow the feeling to be present in you. And maybe we will remember each other as we remember ourselves. So, Maha, this answer is not necessarily what you want, but I would say there is no formula that's going to work perfectly other than the relationship. You want to pray and let it go and listen. In that listening, you might not hear because you're learning to hear, or you might well be learning to hear. So, in that listening, the presumption is that your prayer will be transformed. But sometimes that transformation really is the world saying, be louder. So it means pray again tomorrow, feel it again tomorrow. But at the same time, I've heard of many people who they stick Post-it notes all over their house and in their car trying to reinforce intentions and affirmations, and they don't work because they're not listening. So there's this dynamic relationship between the will to invest a lot, to invest repeatedly, and yet the will to listen and allow it to change. And you are the only true person who can evaluate what is called from you. Now, my experience is that a lot of spiritual traditions, a lot of spiritual seekers are haphazard in that when you have too much of one thing, let's say you have too much will, you have too much push, you could be totally blessed by going to a teacher who teaches you how to surrender. But at a certain point, that also becomes a problem. It's the other side of a polarity. And if you can't recognize that you're on the other side of a polarity, it's not going to be very successful. I'm laughing because I'm not going to tell you. I love you. So polarity is the trap in that people often believe something without realizing they're in a polarity. What you need to do is be careful to evaluate where your weaknesses are. If your weakness is in not having enough will, the world will ask you to repeat yourself a lot. If your weaknesses are in being scattered, the world will ask you to repeat yourself simply with consistency, although not emphasize intensity. If your weakness is in not being assertive enough, the world will ask you to repeat yourself with feeling. If your weakness is being too assertive and too much of a snowplow, the world will ask you to be clear and then learn to adjust what you're asking for. And you are the only one who can evaluate this well. Now, I'll do my best to help you. Ask again after you try, and we'll see where it goes. How do you pray to ask the divine for forgiveness in relationships that are hard to confront in real life? Please forgive me for the ways I have behaved in relationships that are hard to confront in real life. For real. That's a prayer. That's a good prayer. You just feed the question into prayer form. That's the start. Now, I have to tell you, my instinct is that you're taking blame for some things that you haven't, that aren't yours. So this is my next encouragement. I really invite you again. I believe I've said this before to you, Haldi, but I say it again. Entanglement and energetic protection. When you get entangled with someone else, a lot goes wrong, and you're correct in identifying that a lot has gone wrong, but blame is a very dicey challenge. So when you do this, you say, I take responsibility for what is mine, and I reflect what is not my responsibility. That is my addendum to your prayer, that I encourage you to do this so that you're praying to be shown where your responsibility really is. And at that point, yes, there's some to forgive. But for you in particular, for many, that forgiveness is ultimately to forgive yourself for not respecting and loving yourself more. Because it is the wounds, it is the lack of respect and love we give ourselves, which ultimately induce us to hurt other people. And you can't indulge yourself by just feeling terrible for how you hurt someone else if you don't address the fact that the only reason you would hurt someone else in a space where you have a choice is because you're not taking good enough care of you in a way that will last. You must learn to take better, sacred, tender care for yourself by asking for what you need and modifying it in relation to what the world teaches you. And then you will be a better person and a more loving person, a person who is more capable of loving others well. uh, yes, 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 yes. Let me tell you, this is one of my favorite spiritual stories. All right. I spent time working with a Dine, shaman, roadman, ceremonial leader. The Dine have been called Navaha means cutter or knifer, which was used as horse thief. Now, with all respect to everyone of this nation that call themselves that, my teacher, Melvin Betsili, asked me to spread this truth that their name for themselves was the Dine. They live in the Four Corners region of the United States. The Dine suffer a lot. They've been treated terribly, like many Native American tribes. Their land is stolen. They have had horrendous cases of the coronavirus. The support for these communities is bad, and they need love because they are. Melvin totally changed my life in so many good ways. And he taught me with a ferocity that it was a perfect balance. He gave me so much shit as a well-to-do white man, but he gave me that shit with respect. He gave me that shit in a way that taught me. He didn't just break me down by any means. He broke down misconceptions and invited me into the gifts of his community. So the big picture was that the ceremonies that he led me in, native shamanic ceremonies, are medicine for what he called the white man's intellectual disease, the white man's attempt to get their mind around everything and to control everything with their mind. He said, this is a bigger space than the white man's intellectual disease. And it was. It helped me heal a lot of it. And here's what it looked like. It's past midnight in a peyote ceremony, all-night ceremony in a teepee. You sit in a circle. You don't move much unless either it's like 2 bathroom breaks. You sit, you sit, you sit, and you pray with the fire, and you sing, in rounds. So different people initiate songs. Depending on the leader, that's more or less stringent. So sometimes that's a free form. Like occasionally he allowed us to bring in our own songs that were not of his tradition. And sometimes he told us, no, I don't want any more of that. and just taught us his songs. So it's past midnight in this ceremony, and he's rolling Native American spirit, organic tobacco in a corn husk. And he says, you white man and your drugs, this is not a drug. This is a medicine. You don't know how to use this as a medicine. You don't know how to pray. You pray with this. prayer, you think prayer is repeating words other people told you. You don't even know what they mean. Prayer is not that. Prayer is simple. You want to know a prayer? I pray for my mother. May she feel strong when she is afraid. I pray for my father. May he have the focus to continue his work when he loses it. I pray for my brother that he finds his way and knows how to make good choices with his life. I pray for my sister that her success and her voice be strong and clear and that people respect her. Simple. Prayers are simple. You want to know why you call it a drug? You want to know why you're addicted? It's our revenge. 11/11. Ever since then, I grew tobacco this year. Haudenosaunee, local. The local natives in central New York were called the Iroquois, which to the French meant snake people. So Haudenosaunee was their name for themselves. The local Haudenosaunee, a woman gave me local Haudenosaunee tobacco. And I grew this tobacco, and it grew really well in my garden this year. And it's hanging, drying outside. And I smoke one leaf, and I make a prayer. And I make prayers in relation to fear and anger. That's what tobacco is for. It's medicine for fear and anger. It's medicine for the strong feelings that overcome you. And many people who are addicted to tobacco use it, on their breaks. And, they get scathingly judged for it, but often they're in jobs that are very painful and they're suffering and they're pissed that they're being mistreated. So it's their aborted attempt to make a prayer. But it's a very unfortunate use of the substance because ultimately a real deep prayer would get them out of that job. The tobacco, if you prayed with it, it makes big changes in your life. And this is the same principle that goes for just day-to-day prayers. You make prayers simple. You make them very simple and clear, and then surrender them, and they will change your life. Oh, bless you, Maha. Bless you. It's meant that way. And frankly, at this point, it's not much of a choice, but I was invited into this path, and it was like, trust, teach in a way that it can spread, and trust what the world shows you in response. So I am so much more comfortable teaching on YouTube in this open forum, certainly as my foundation. And that being said, I'm offering sessions to people. So anybody who wants a session, let me know, and I will coach you if you're more focused on coaching, or help you focus on healing issues, and usually some of both. Those who are focused on healing, I try to encourage towards doing more yoga and developing chakra work techniques. And those who are focused on chakra work and really excited to learn about the gifts of a more spiritual life and how to integrate that. We're going to bring up pain. So when that pain comes up, we work on healing it. Yep. that got me through, Holly. And once I was at Burning Man, and I have to tell you, I want to share these stories with joy and humility and a sense of like, I really do not believe even most people need to do extreme substances. I've not found that extreme substances were core to my path. Many people will tell you that hallucinogens, like open the door for them or whatever. Maybe to an extent, they were a powerful part of my path, but I never thought of them as crucial. But I once was at Burning Man and I was high on mushrooms. And I remember the profound sense that the sky was the roof and that I was just blessed to be on the planet. And I was like, at first I felt so naked. And then I'm like, oh, it feels much more naked out there in space. It was like, and I remembered, it was like a window. Like I remembered that and I got it and I carried it. So I was traveling around, and I have to tell you, I think it's important to communicate. I do not encourage you to do what I did, but I let go. I let go of my house. I sold it. I gave away a lot of the money. I spent some of the money that I kept. I bought a car. I lost a car. I lost another car, 4 vehicles. And I understood that the earth was calling me to be on this extreme where backpack, guitar, yoga mat. Frequently, I would sit in a park. It was like my thing when I didn't know what to do, often in San Francisco, of all places. I would sit in a park and empty everything in my backpack and go through it and just be like, why do I have this? Do I need this? Do I need this? And I would put it in a place where it could be taken, if it was valuable, but I didn't really need it. And I often I did that because I knew I was making mistakes to often keep things that I didn't need. And this is advice everybody can do. I strongly encourage you to go through your home regularly and say, do you really need this? A lot of times you'll look at something and you'll identify it with its value. So it's like, oh yeah, I could do this. That would be really cool. But you never do that. And yet you're keeping it. And if you're keeping it, it takes space. It takes space in your life. So if you know that you're not doing something with a thing that you have, and you just keep looking at it, when you look at it, you say, oh, I'd love to do that, but you never really do it, make a choice. Get rid of the things that aren't really necessary, no matter how big your home is. Let go of the things that you don't really need so you can create space for things that really do fit. And believe me, there is a direct connection. So I'm open for a couple more questions, and then we're going to go into readings. I want to emphasize to you that what's happening right now is really, really profound. In fact, I said it a couple of weeks ago, almost accidentally. And when these things come through, like I know what I'm going to say, and then it's framed in a way I've never heard. So there's sort of like a pseudo channeling involved, like a divine inspiration. And then that allows me to understand it even more deeply. But in this country, I love saying this because there's so many people from around the world here. But in this country, we're very polarized between the Republican and Democratic Party. And realistically, a lot of the worst elements of this country have rested in the Republican Party and the more abusive. That's not to say the Democratic Party is all good or nothing, but a lot of the most racist and destructive to the earth and dominance-focused energies have been in the Republican Party. And my guidance has suggested that two things are happening. One, there's a tension that challenges us to make clearer and clearer and better choices before we change. So the conservative force is sort of, it's like a valuable though terrifying critic, because it's saying until you're really strong enough to handle the leadership, we're not going to let you lead. That's one way of understanding the dynamic that's relatively positive. But the other way, and this is something that applies to everyone in the world, is that when you identify polarizations that you're in, rivalries, certainly enemies, every single one of you, if you can say that you have an enemy, I want you to be present with this. When you have an enemy, what you're doing is you're taking everything in yourself that you don't like, everything that you're avoiding, and you're flinging it at the other person, wrapped in a package of negativity. And what it does, particularly when people do this together, like people are like, we, this group of people, oppose them, that group of people. Whenever you do that, there's this temporary space that you get, sort of like clearing the frost off a window. And when you clear it away, you see clearly for a moment, but it comes at a cost, because what you've done is you've gotten rid of stuff within you that you actually need. But what it says when you live in a life when you have an enemy, it's saying to the world, I don't want to deal with this stuff. Help me get rid of it. Help me avoid it. And when you avoid it, you can't heal it. In this temporary respite you get by hating anybody, a person, a culture, a group, when you get rid of your own feelings by hating them, you can't work with that energy and you can't heal. And ultimately, you want to. You might need the opportunity to get rid of it just to have space for a while. But if you don't commit yourself to looking honestly into those things later, you're never going to transform in a way that you won't have to deal with it at all. And believe me, it is possible. You must believe that it is possible to not have a wide range of problems that you might think are normal, that you might think are just the way it is. You have to begin to believe in it to truly access this space where you can really heal things that have gone wrong all your life. You can really get out of patterns, fundamentally negative patterns that are just normal to you. But you have to want it. You have to want it. You have to want it in a way that creates space. And when you do that, you get a hope going. And that hope is real. It exists. When you get that hope going, the world's going to then show you, say, hey, guess what? Here's something in you that you need to look at. And at that point, it's your choice. Are you gonna avoid it by focusing over and like fighting someone else? Unfortunately, sometimes that's someone you love. And unfortunately, sometimes that's someone I love. And when I do my best to say, I'm avoiding something. What is it? And it's scary because if you're avoiding it so much, if you have such a drive to avoid pain within yourself or discomfort within yourself or self-judgment in yourself, if you have such a drive to avoid those things that you're willing to be aggressive or negative or hateful with someone you love, it's probably something bad. It's probably something tough. So you really have to face it willingly and say, show me. And please, I pray, give me the strength to face this in a way that I can transform it. Show me the steps I need to take to heal this in a way that I no longer succumb to this negative pattern. And I'm making that prayer for myself because I acted like an asshole this morning to my wife. Okay. Last call on a question. By the way, I'll take the interlude to say, I really appreciate your likes. It matters. First of all, it does make me feel good. Actually, this is a game. It's a thing, and it works. It's like it lets me know when people appreciate something, and particularly in relation to other. If I've done a better job one day, and I know that 12 more people appreciated that, it shows me, hey, that's connecting. It works. It matters. So when you click like, thank you, presuming you mean it. Second, when you invite people who that could be blessed by this work, it means a lot to me. Maybe you're inviting somebody who stays with this for a long time. I've had people working with me for a decade or more. And when you participate in this, in my life, in this work, in a way that connects others to it, it's such a gift. So if you are in a position to share this with people you love in whatever form, I'm grateful. All right. Readings. If you want readings, please say so. And that being said, I always appreciate donations. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Maha. I've been getting wonderful donations from some people, and it does mean a lot. Under no circumstances do I want you to think you have to give me a donation if you ask for a reading. It's just if this is blessing your life. Hey, compare it to how it would go if you had to pay someone to do this work. And I'm telling you, sometimes this extraordinary gifts that have come to me that I share with you can have a profound effect very quickly. If you know that to be true, I do appreciate your thanks when it comes in a financial form. I don't know why, Marquise, your posts, I have to approve them. Much love, brother. What could possibly be bad about saying much love, brother? No one's saying you want a reading yet. If you want a reading. There we go. Haldi. Here we go. All right. So first, I will say you need this so much. You need this lesson. This I pray for you, but I do not take responsibility for you. There is someone in particular, a feminine energy, that you need to do this with. And you're taking responsibility in a way that's really bad for you. So when you make this as a prayer, you can also say, I want it to be graceful. I don't want to hurt if possible, but I need this boundary. And in the process, you're saying this, okay, this thing, I want to do this every freaking week, okay? This is saying, I do not take responsibility for you, other person who I'm having trouble with. I do take responsibility for myself. And what that's saying is, in many cases, when any individual gets entangled with another, I'm pausing, I'm missing something. Oh, so you're using reasons too much to say no to someone. You need to let go of your reasons. Actually, the reason you're saying no is not accurate, but you need to say no. And you're looking to justify your no when really you need to trust your intuition. You need to trust the deeper part of yourself that's saying no without explanation yet. And your spirit needs you to trust it this way. But you seem to be stuck in a dynamic where you're not saying no until you feel like you can justify your no without feeling like you have to prove why. It's been for you. Kavitha. Hmm. So there's been a lot of fear around you, and most of it is not yours. You've been digesting fear for other people, and it's pushed you into sort of an extreme relationship with many of the people around you. When you digest their fear, it's the give a man a fish. It's the sort of the opposite of the give a man a fish they eat for a day, teach a man to fish they eat for a lifetime. When you become responsible for digesting other people's fear, you have to keep digesting their fear. And it can be really challenging to draw a boundary and say, I'm not going to keep playing this role for you, particularly when no one has really understood that there's a dynamic going on. So some part of you knows that if you say no to some of the people in your life, they're going to react negatively. And you're scared to make that change. And you have to believe that it is actually more beneficial for many people to be told no, so they learn to handle their own problems. You can still hold them in compassion. You can pray that they learn to handle those problems well. And maybe you can play a role in guiding them. But I sense that you're actually surrounded with people. You're in dynamics with people who don't respect you enough. So they can't really learn from you. They're just depending on your gift, your ability to process their negativity. And you need better boundaries with them. I've told you this already, and now we're getting deeper into why. It's these boundaries, and I think we've identified, and I hope I've articulated clearly how I think that's playing out and why it's so necessary, even for the other people you need to draw them with. Oh, wow. A lot happened. I closed my eyes and a ton happened. Lenny, you're crying for other people too much. There's a difference between empathy and compassion. You are empathizing with people who do not deserve that attention. It's not good. It doesn't make you a good person. By empathizing with them, you synchronize with their emotional feelings, but actually you are being liberated, and it's good for you. You're tired because you're not staying with yourself. You're not staying with yourself. You can celebrate. You can be happy about these changes, even though other people are suffering amidst them. And you can feel compassion for their suffering without empathizing with them. Whew. That's right in the lungs. That's right in the lungs. And this goes for you too, still, Kavita. Lung stuff, lung stuff. Work with lung stuff, lung chakra. It's good. Marquise. By the way, I love these. Like the same people are returning, and I really appreciate you, and I appreciate developing a relationship with you this way. Uh, so I have to tell you, I'm getting a little more brazen, which means I'm going to share things even if they don't necessarily connect to people completely, but some of you might get it. But I get a sense that you in particular are kind of like a scout for a broader range of people who kind of want to know what I'm up to. And what I got is that's enough. So I see you that way with respect, with respect. So I get that there's someone else who could play a similar role, or not a similar role, but who could occupy a similar space in your life to the one that is sort of developing with me as an influencer, as a teacher. You might be better off with this other person. And there's a limit to how much I can help you until you make that choice. And I'm not, I wouldn't want you to make the wrong choice. There are a lot of really awesome teachers in this world, a lot of awesome paths. Odella, Odetta. You have, oh, now look, a lot of this advice could go for other people, but I encourage you to be careful if you take on other people's advice as your own. Just scrutinize it. It might be true, but be careful. I'm going to tell you what I think is most important for each of you to hear. What I think is most important for you to hear. Odetta. You have been holding confusion for other people, and you've identified yourself as confused. A lot of it isn't yours. And you're in a position where it's a really good time to let go of these other people. There is a certain kind of confusion. Now, this is true for all of you, but I just want you to be careful about holding it too tightly if I'm not telling it to you directly. There's a certain kind of confusion that you can't resolve with your mind. And it's almost always a clear sign that there's something tangled that isn't really yours, which is why it's unreceptive to your thoughts and intentions and choices. So this is really good medicine for such circumstances. You are in a position, Odetta. Please feel free to correct me if I ever mispronounce someone's name. I love how many people are showing up here with a wide diversity of cultures. It means so much to me. What? All right. I pick up on a lot of signals and I can't verbalize them all. You're in a really good position to create space and to recognize that there's an inner confidence that you deserve. What you did was you got a lot stronger in your life. Spiritually, you got a lot stronger and you immediately picked up a ton. Like you started taking on all sorts of stuff. And you took it on by understanding other people, by talking to them and recognizing them and seeing them and trying to like believe in them in a way that took from you. And you agreed to kind of carry some of their load. Too much. You've identified as if you are confused and it's really more their confusion. And you need to kind of distance yourself from that. Take on less, The strongest person in the room does not always have to be overloaded with things carrying stuff. You are in a position to recognize who you really are on a level that's going to be exciting. It's going to be awesome. And I invite you to really get excited about that. Do this. To a lot of people in your life, do this. Yes, today is a very interesting session, and I'm really Maha, bless your heart. I totally, uh, yeah, I appreciate your belief, and I'm creating space. There's a lot coming through me that I've been waiting a long time to be able to share, and so I'm allowing myself to experiment a little. 2 weeks ago, it didn't work so great, but I learned a lot about what that approach would be like. And then last week, some things came through in a way that was just really inspiring for me and more natural. This week, I'm going with like more speed and more prayerful expression, and I hope it's working for you all. Fatima. Mm, say no. You're getting hurt. Say no. Say no. It's not your job. Pray for support and say no in a way that works, in a way that you will be safe. I shit you not. In the worst of situations, this is important. Please, it's supposed to be funny, but it's real. I am rubber and you are glue. Whatever nasty shit you throw at me bounces off and sticks to you. That bounce is important. You don't have to take the hits for someone else. Then you pray with compassion, not empathy, compassion. Compassion says, I care about you, but I'm not going to feel for you. I care about you, and I pray that you get the support you need to change this negativity, but I can't do it for you. In fact, you can some, but then you have to do it again. Real help comes when someone changes the pattern so deep that they don't stay stuck. And sometimes that means putting them in a position where they have to face their pain for themselves without being distracted. I'm going to say it's important for me to say this. This morning I was feeling pretty shitty. I woke up early and I was feeling some sadness, and my wife woke up and I immediately wanted to share that with her. And she said no, and I was mad. And I wanted to avoid it. If I'm honest with myself, I wanted to avoid what I was feeling. And I have some deeper work to do to be present with why I was feeling what I was feeling and what is the healthiest way to deal with those feelings. So, quite frankly, I don't think she said no very graciously, and I fully support her right to say no to me because it wasn't the right way. So, that's by way of saying someone in your life is like that. And you're having a hard time saying no, even though you need to. Maha. Ah. I care so much about you. And I have a sense that this could influence you in a way that, there are people who really don't want you to be influenced this way. So I ask you to be careful in that regard. I don't want you to burn out. It's okay to take space. I certainly am not offended. I want you to create a life that really works. And that means having an honest assessment of the challenges around you. And in many ways that can be painful because you have to be clear with yourself about threats, about the truth of where people stand. And There's nothing shameful about stepping around challenges. You don't have to take every in fact, it can often be wrong to take on a challenge head first if it's not gonna be productive. There is no shame in stepping around, avoiding, even being sort of sneaky and hiding sometimes when you know that that is the most pragmatic choice. And I really encourage you to, mm, include that. The it's not humility, it's just, a very cold assessment of when is it time to challenge people and when is it time to nurture your strength and keep yourself safe. I don't know why I'm saying this. I think I shared this last week, but there was this pivotal moment in my life when I danced in the streets during Mardi Gras with my family. They were part of a my uncle and aunt and their family were part of a crew which marches on Mardi Gras, and I danced barefoot all day long, and I danced around people, and I danced fast. So I got into this zone where I was like spinning. It was elegant, and everybody else was moving and dancing, and I was going circles around them. And I cannot invite you enough to imagine this, all of you. Imagine this as a potential, as an approach to life that often can take you to the next level where you carry the will to move around people and even avoid them in a way that it might make them a little nervous, but you don't need to push them to get out of the way. You actually make a virtue out of spinning and gracefully changing so that you get the feeling of being more alive. You don't have to sacrifice or fully dim your light. And yet, you know when to step around things because part of that dancing around in real life means you go over here or you go over here and you let people have their petty tyrannies over their little zone right around them. You don't fight the battles you don't need to fight, but you keep yourself lit. We are your friends. Thank you so much. What? Marquise, I don't understand. Why are your messages? Why do I have to approve your messages? Please do. I feel that on my nose. So that I can't tell you enough. This is a chakra. This is a very underused chakra. It is sometimes out there as the senses chakra. And I really want to take this opportunity to accentuate because I'm weak with this chakra. Okay. Oh God, I'm a little scared about this, but um, I'm weak with this chakra. This chakra is about spiritual guidance in a physical form. So it's about how your senses, when you learn to trust your senses, how they help you tune in to a better life day to day in the moment. It starts day to day in the moment. It definitely leads to big choices. But this is about your senses will let you know when you're uncomfortable in a way that you need to change your patterns that will draw you away from sitting still for too long. And I'm definitely almost done with sitting still. Uh, they will draw you away from sitting still for too long and towards the simple steps you need to take to tune you in. I always use the same kind of examples. Get a breath of fresh air, open the door, stick your head out there, going to walk around the block, drink more water, don't drink as much coffee. I I have I have a real profound ongoing problem. Um, my nose bleeds, this nostril, right nostril. And I pick at it because it gets congested and I can't breathe, and it bleeds more. And I'm almost always doing it when I'm scared, self conscious, trying to hold negativity. I can connect the thoughts that are in my head when this happens. And it's been awful for the past couple of weeks. I have had so much trouble breaking through as a teacher. I've so many fears about success. I don't fully understand them all, but I am asking you, as people who here, as friends, as students, as whatever brings you here, I'm asking you to pray for me in this. That I have fears about success in my work. I have fears about the responsibility, and I have fears I can't see. And I pray that I receive the support I need to trust the changes that will make me successful in this life. I want, for real, I want to make enough money to retire well. I was making 60 grand with benefits and stuff. Potential. I had to, get bonuses and stuff. My third year out of college, working at computers in New York City, and I've not come close to making that much in any year since then. I would like to make that much doing this work. And I would like to trust it. I would like it to come in a form where I can share a lot with people who might not have as much money and have many avenues where people can learn that are accessible. And I accept financial relationships with organizations or individuals who need my work and who I can support and do well, and be confident and trust it and trust the person I become by succeeding in this mainstream world, which has been very difficult for me. Thank you for helping me hold that prayer. So, a couple things to wrap up, and any last questions or readings, let me know. But I believe I've done everyone. If I've missed you, please post it again. Marquise, I have not answered your questions. You wrote me questions, and I'm scared. I'm scared. This is one of my fears. So here's what I can do. Toth is not answering the questions when I ask him this way. He wants me to do it live, and that makes me very uncomfortable. I am concerned about being someone who channels him live, and he's not really answering me as to whether that would be. You just take this step. So I'm going to do it. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll take that list. I'll do a live feed tomorrow, and all I'll be doing is answering those questions. And maybe there'll be a wild card at the end. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the live feed. I'm going to bring up the questions. I'm going to ask him and answer in the moment, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Kavitha. So I turned in my book. It's being laid out. The artist who's working with illustrations is finishing them. They look gorgeous. They're really beautiful. She already made a set of them and wanted to make improved versions. So she made some 3 years ago that I've been using that you can see on the website. And she's made new versions of all of them on her own initiative. I didn't have any instinct that they needed to be improved, but she has definitely made better versions. So it's really exciting. It's going straight to Amazon. My mother, who is a professional editor who teaches people to write, she just recently finished a book on Vietnam, healing the Vietnam War. She went to Vietnam 3-4 times in the past decade. And she and my father met as Vietnam War anti-war activists. And it was a big part of her life when she was young. And she went there to help heal the ongoing legacy of pain. And then she wrote a book about it. So it's online. I'd actually love to advertise it more. Do I have it right here? Okay, so I don't have it right here, but I'll share it next week. And she's editing this book. So she's already been editing it and challenging me to rewrite things. I have a lot of people who've been readers for me, and tons of them have given me really good insight. And, I'm so proud of it. And she's laying it out. It's going to be published and go to Amazon right away, hopefully in time for the holidays. So I can't tell you, like, I had a great week last week. So much loosened up when I let go, because it's really hard to let go of something I've been working on this many years. It's been a long time. It's like, oh, I could perfect this. I could perfect this. And it's like, no, let it. So it feels amazing to get it out there, and it'll be there soon. So, oh man, thank you guys. This is just awesome. This routine that I'm posting, I'll say it, like, I'll just post it. It doesn't have titles. I have not been able to put the titles in. So I've tried to title and like show like a thing spin out and show you which pose is which. But I can't do it. Like, it's crashing. It's crashed more than a dozen times. And my computer sucks. I need a new computer. To be honest with you, I wanted to buy a new computer with money I made this way, but I haven't made enough. Um, it's okay. It's okay. We have enough. We have enough to get one, and I'm going to get one. But the computer's been crashing before, and it never crashed like this. I have been using this routine for 6 years, and I wanted to give this introduction as a completion to today. When I got engaged, 7.5 years, 6.5 years ago, we got engaged in August, and shortly after that, I started really feeling the call to like professionalize everything I'm doing and take it to the next level. So I scanned through all of my experience, and I started, addressing my yoga practice. I'd studied with so many different teachers, practiced in many extreme ways, and it was haphazard. Something's coming through, by the way. That's why I'm a little distracted. But I developed these flowers, and I really felt my wife, like my wife was giving me flowers before we got married. So I put all these routines, I sequenced these routines, aligning them with the chakras, and they were flowers, like patterns that flow, that make energy flow in you, that help you be a spiritual flower. The results I love, and I've only given you some of them, and I mean, it's downright obnoxious. It's like sort of greedy. It's like I just haven't shared it. Whatever. It's like, now's when I'm doing it. Okay. But this routine it's brilliant. I use it almost every day. I do some of it before I go to bed. Here's the breakdown. And I haven't emphasized this. You'll find it throughout my live feeds and stuff, but I haven't emphasized it. When you memorize the 12 chakras, any 5 chakras in a row are very powerful together. So once you've memorized the key ring routine, in the key ring routine, not in a row linearly, in the key ring routine. So if I want to work with my heart, I go 5 more chakras: heart, crown, throat, sacral, nose tip. Those 5 are very powerful in relation to amplifying the heart. And you only have to use 5. In fact, in some ways, it's more powerful to just use 5. When you do that with yoga, it works extraordinarily well. So what I do often is I do the whole routine, but I emphasize some of them more than others. And often I'm consciously, intentionally emphasizing 5. So before I go to bed, I emphasize ones that help me sleep more, from the diamond eye. And when I wake up, I emphasize the ones from the heart more, to help uplift me and focus me and accentuate things. So I get the whole routine can be done easily in about 20 minutes. You can do the short version that's just 6 minutes, the grounded flower version I just posted. But this extended version has balancing exercises for the left and right side, which involves left and right poses that you can change with a breath. And when you do this and meditate on the chakra, it's phenomenally influential. So I'm going to post this without titles. I will include underneath it another link. I don't know if you've noticed, some people did, but I posted a lot of text outlining how to use this, more fleshed out system with the grounded flower. under this last video, grounded flower video. I'm going to do the same text with this longer video. So if you study it, you can figure out what I'm doing. And maybe, it's worth the challenge that rather than just giving you the titles, stare at it. It's in a sequence aligned with the key ring: heart, crown, throat, sacral, nose tip, solar plexus, diamond eye, lungs, root, chin, navel, third eye, heart. It's in that sequence. If you study it, you'll be able to tell. There's a bunch of different poses with each, but watch for the changes. Donations. I just put it in the link, I think, underneath this. There's a PayPal and I didn't make many pitches, but please feel free to donate. I'm so grateful if you do. There's a PayPal and a Venmo. Both get through. Venmo's no fees, so it's a little better, but whatever comes. Honestly, feel no guilt about not donating, or certainly not donating every week. If you drop me a donation every once in a while, I'm really grateful. If you don't have a lot of money, share it instead. Like, please, if you could do both, that's obviously great. But if you don't have, this is a tough time. If you don't have a lot of money, I'm not asking for money first and foremost from you. Your respect is a much deeper gift, for real. Oh, bless you, heart. Thank you, Liddy. So there we go. This has been a wonderful and interesting session. I really appreciate y'all staying with me. Looks like we had more people around than we ever have. And as ever, I'm so thankful to have this in my life, to have this form of sharing that I believe is really a core part of my calling. Thanks for your respect. I am so hopeful that this continues to bless your life. Please ask questions, reach out if you're open to or could need a session, and share this with the people you love. Share the love with the people you love. I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful day. Hold your prayers in sacred trust and listen for the answers.